is yours, so claim it now. No looking back, let's show them how.
My king, good morning. Happy Friday. Thank you for your time today. I could not be more excited to talk to you. I've been looking forward to this for a few weeks.
Thanks so much, Cam. Me too. I've been actually anticipating this for the entire week. I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad to be here.
I want to kick it off by saying thank you for your service to our country, my king. I know you were a Marine, and really appreciate you serving us so we can be here on the internet talking shit and buying NFTs and doing all the dumb shit we choose to do and being creative. Thank you very much for your service. So, let's just kick it off. AI Film 3 Festival, based in Arizona, annual event at the intersection of artificial intelligence and creativity. Last year was your kickoff. Tell us about it, where the idea come from, and let's just dive in. AI Film 3, tell us all about it, my king.
Cam, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And first of all, let me acknowledge the appreciation. I want to say that having joined the service and for the work that I was able to do, I really appreciate that support. And I think it's important for all our veterans. And one of the things I did for the film festival was I made sure I gave tickets. We had 20 veterans that came out from a veterans organization that participated as well. So
let's go.
I appreciate it, and I continue to feed it forward to all the people that continue to serve. So I appreciate that.
That is awesome. Are you doing that this year as well? Will there be a way for veterans to be able to get in touch to get tickets this year?
Absolutely. There's VetTix is one of the groups that I go through. So VetTix allows you to make donations, and they get claimed by the veterans. So that's that way you know that it's going to a veterans organization and it's distributed to other veterans that are interested. So
very cool.
It's great.
Please keep us informed about that, and we'll be happy to get that on the timeline and megaphone as much as we can to get the word out about those free tickets too. So keep us in mind as that time comes around.
Will do. Absolutely. So the festival, it's funny because it's been about a year now, right? Last month made a year that I had come back from NFT NYC, and I thought, after talking to all the different artists and creatives, I thought, man, there's got to be a way to address the common theme I was hearing, which was exposure. How do people find, look, the people in the space, just absolutely amazing human beings in general. I run into so many great people, made new connections, and who I think are friends, which is, again, go back to what you were saying a minute ago. It's kind of weird in today's day and age, the way we work and operate, but it's nice to still find genuine people in this connection.
Absolutely. I think this community is doing a lot more on that front than most, in my experience as well.
Yeah, absolutely, right? What was cool is that at the NFT NYC event last year, hearing everybody talk about getting seen and getting recognition, and how do we grow the space? Because that was the concern, and I think it always is a concern, right? How do you get mass adoption? So I came back with this idea and this vision of, I think I could do this, and I'm going to do it with AI and what's coming out with the film development, things that are happening with art, and I want to get the creatives involved. So I kind of put a plan together and tossed it around to a bunch of friends. They all thought I was crazy. They're like, dude, that's a complete waste of time and money. You're going to lose things. It's going to be no good. And I'm like, no, it's going to be great. This is going to be amazing. And it was. It absolutely was.
It was. And here we are. I mean, that's how I met you. So I wanted to kick off with just a little bit of background on that, just to let people know how we came into contact with each other. And that gives, kind of a starting point. I would love to even, rewind further. Let's go back, PJ Way, to your Marine days. Tell us about your upbringing. I know you're from Arizona. I'm not doxing you. Everybody knows you're from Arizona. You're like the biggest Arizona representative on the internet, I think, right now. So tell us about, your early years and how you came into the crypto space. Where was your aha moment and Film 3? How did you land in Film 3? Give us that journey.
Sure. No, I appreciate that. I grew up in New York. I grew up in upstate New York, which I know that there are people in this room that have recently moved in that direction. So it's kind of, I'm always like, oh, you got to go here to eat. You got to go there to eat. And it's funny because Benchmarks is our food, right? That's goodness. No, I grew up in upstate New York. I have a sister, so it was just a small family. My parents both worked full-time. My dad worked a full-time job and a part-time job. My mother worked a part-time job, and I was that latchkey kid. You know, we all hear the term, and many of us know what that is. I come home from school, and I'd have my sister with me, and we'd go in the house. I'd make us dinner and put on our shows, watch TV, and do our homework. And then my parents would come home from work at about 8 o'clock, and we would have, well, so I didn't really make us dinner. I made us like a snack. And then my parents come home at 8. They'd make dinner. We'd sit around for an hour or two and go to bed. And it was that way most of the time. I think growing up, my parents were fantastic, very hard workers. Didn't come from a very high profile background. Actually, pretty humble. So it was that way in the house, and I knew hard work mattered because that's what I saw with my parents all the time. So that's how I kind of how I grew up. And actually, it's funny. I wanted to be in art forever. When I was in high school, I went and I took every dang art class I could get a hold of. I took
Awesome.
photography, uh, photography, commercial art, and the commercial art program was just amazing. I mean, I took like stippling art and airbrush. Airbrush was big in the '80s, so in high school that was a thing, right? They probably don't teach that anymore. So anybody wants a cool airbrush hat, I could probably do that for you. You know, like at the state fair. Um,
PJ will
yeah,
be at the
that's that.
festival. PJ will be at the booth taking custom orders for your shit coins. He'll be making he'll be making custom merch for you.
Right? Yeah, t-shirts and hats. Tell you what, man. No, that's kind of how that was what I'd be in art. I thought I would be in art at first, and I applied to the colleges I wanted to go to. I got accepted. I couldn't afford them. Long story short is I just couldn't afford them. It was late '80s, early '90s, and I couldn't afford college. My parents didn't have that kind of money. No, at that time, full time was like $6,000 a year. It's crazy, and I still couldn't afford it. So I ended up joining the service. I joined the military and thought that's a path I would pursue. And it was very rewarding. In 4 years, I visited 37 states and 8 countries. I had over 5,000 hours of flight time on helicopters.
Wow.
Saw a
Wow.
lot of the world, a lot of, yeah, some good and some not so good, but the world's a beautiful place in general.
That is quite a journey. So, how long were you in the service, and when did you end your service?
So I was in from '91 to '95. I served during Somalia and Bosnia, and that it was during that time frame. I served in Somalia and Bosnia, which were two conflicts. Bosnia was going through a civil war, and Somalia had warlords that were kind of not. They were starving their people in the end. I mean, that's really what they were doing. So I was in there to help do a lot of humanitarian efforts, relief. And we actually arrived in Somalia 2 days after. If you've ever seen Black Hawk Down, we arrived 2 days after those helicopters were taken down. So it was really an intense time. It was really, you grow up pretty fast. You learn to appreciate a lot of things real quick. So yeah. Other than that, though, I will say getting to travel to like Italy. Italy was beautiful. I would go there again in a heartbeat. France, Turkey, Spain, um,
Man,
Egypt.
I'd love to
That's
visit
it.
Turkey. Turkey has so much cool stuff. Architecture, just the history, incredible.
It is. It was a real blessing to be able to be out there. You know, what 18, 19-year-old gets to do that?
Sure, sure.
It was
S-
wild.
Amen. Amen. So you get out of the military, you're back in the States, and what's your where's your head at? What are you thinking? What's the future for young PJ after you land back in the States and you've blown your mind open with everything you've seen over the past few years?
Great. You know, Kim, what's funny is when I got back, after I got out of the service, I was about to get out of the service, and I met my wife at the time, and we were dating, and I knew that travel was just in the cards, that I would be traveling forever in the service because of the amount of travel I had done in those 4 years. Um, so I decided I was going to get out. I said, okay, you know what? It's time to. I've served my time. Time to go do something else and see what else I can explore. And I ended up moving. I had several job offers. One was in Miami, one was in Utah, and the other was in the Chicagoland area. And I thought, you know what? Miami was nice. I went and visited. I was like, it's a different lifestyle, and I wasn't. And then I went to Chicago. I loved the speed of everything. Um, Utah, I never even made it out there because the job offer I had, I took and ended up in Illinois. And I was there for 18 years. And what's cool is that I was doing art when I was in the service because I would on the armor plating that would go on the aircraft, we would draw in, just very much throwing a throwback to World War II aircraft that would draw things on the sides. So we would do the same thing. We were creating art and doing things for our own aircraft, personalizing them. And when I got out of the service, I was like, man, I actually started taking a night class to go back to art class, and it was just a draw. I don't know what it was within me that wanted to do that type of stuff, but I always did. Um, and then in Illinois, I started out working on a shop floor. Believe it or not, I was actually on a shop floor doing hydraulics assembly, working on high speed machines. Uh, I saw some design issues, some concerns about it. I talked to an engineer one day, and he brought me up and said, "Okay, well, look, you know how to use this CAD system." And this was again like mid '90s, and I'm like, "I do not." He's like, "Well, here, come in every day at 4 in the morning, and I'll let you get on my computer, and I'll show you how to do this. I'll give you a couple lessons, and then you can practice. And at 6 o'clock, I'm going to erase everything you did, and I've got to go to work, and you got to go to work, and we're done." So I did that for 6 months. For 6 months, I went every day from Monday through Friday at 4 a.m. to go into his office and sat down at his computer and would work, trying to understand how to be an engineer, what it took to do these tools and the designs. And then, lo and behold, that company had an engineering spot open up. He put me in for recommendation. So here I am going into engineering as a junior engineer, working for other engineers with no degree, with no background in it beyond my own experience and willing to learn on it. And so I started going to school for that degree. I went to school, got my associate's degree.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you don't look. The path for us is only made by us. It's not always given to
Absolutely.
us. We have to force through
Absolutely.
somehow. So
Everyone, we've got PJ Way, founder of AI Film and Art Festival in Arizona. He's got the AI Film 3 account pinned at the top of this chat here. He's also running Prometheus Productions, and we are 15 minutes into this 2-hour chat. We're just hearing about him coming out of the Marines and beginning his journey as an engineer. So, King PJ, pick up where you left off. You've now become an engineer, or at least an apprentice to these engineers that have been, spent their life learning this, or at least a longer time than you have. took the formal education path. Now you're on the floor solving problems that you saw mechanically. What's next? Where you at? You got the job, I take it.
yeah, no, I did. I was very fortunate. I got the job, and I had a great boss. Debbie Goddard uh, was an amazing person. She really kind of let me learn, explore, and succeed and fail, and never took anything to, she never was one to, like, if it didn't come out right and you had to rework it, she was never one to be beating you down. She was very encouraging. So I was very fortunate. I was surrounded. I think throughout my career, I've been surrounded by good mentors, people that had good examples. And that company ended up, because high velocity machines was a very niche market, but that company ended up going out of business, and I was one of the first people that were let go. Now, I was working on my associate degree. I had just gotten it. I was let go from the company. I was like beaten down. I was like, this is awful. What am I going to do now? Well, again, got to reinvent yourself. So I went and I reached out. I got an application out to a bunch of companies. One company hired me called Fenner Fluid Power, and it had 3 engineers in the whole company, and they did a great job with hydraulics. So I ended up, I knew hydraulics, I knew the engineering stuff. They hired me on. Again, kind of one of the 4 people that are in engineering. That's not the only one that really doesn't have a degree in engineering. And I was designing. There's a company there, so there's a product called El Corazon. You ever seen those cars that bounce up and down?
You mean like hydraulics? Yeah, sure.
Yeah. They do
Yeah,
the hydraulics competitions.
absolutely.
So I designed El Corazon, which was an award-winning hydraulic pump in that market. So
Wow.
it won a national title for that pump. Um, it was that was pretty cool, right? I'd never been part of that environment, but I used to think they
Damn,
were the
King
culture.
PJ's like the engineer of the lowriders, bro. That's a
It,
pretty cool
so
thing to
funny.
say. That's amazing.
It was so funny. I'm like, I remember going to visit the factory and they demoed to me, and I'm like, wait, what's this doing? Right? Because I only understood the principles of what they were trying to accomplish. So I built a design that I knew would do it efficiently. I had no idea what the real market use case was. I didn't even look at the end products. By the time I got out there to look at the end product, I was like, holy crap, this is so cool.
That is incredible. That's so cool.
Yeah, I love that job. It was a great job. I worked there for about 12 years. Um, and that really was a catalyst, right, to a lot of change for me though, because what happened was when I worked at that company, um, I was working in engineering for a long time, and then what happened was the company was bought out. Thunder Fluid Power was bought out by a company called SPX. SPX came in, and new engineering director came in, or I'm sorry, new IT director came in, and his name was Ken Sweet. Again, another great guy, great mentor. Ken had come down to engineering one day and said he's getting rid of all the software that called SolidWorks, that nobody's using it. I'm the only one. It's a stupid expensive product, and nobody else is building in 3D. And I said, well, I think that's a mistake. I voiced my opinion. I stood up and said, I think this is the right tool. I think we have. And at that time, the company that bought us out had 20 engineers, so we had 20 licenses for this stuff. And I'm like, I think it's a mistake to get rid of it. And we really should be training the other engineers on it. So I had to work against another engineer that was very well versed, and that guy's name was Mike, and he was amazing too. But we had they asked us to do a design and see who could produce it more efficiently, just because he was doing it just to prove a point after I made my argument. And we did it, and I had mine done about 15 minutes before his with the SolidWorks, because I could just produce the drawings. Once I had the model built and I could drop it in, I could propagate all the drawings and material, because I designed it. It looked like I was behind for a long time. Once I put it in the document and it published, he was like, wow, this is much faster. And especially if you had somebody that was probably a better engineer than I was. So he asked me to come and join IT. And that was the change, because when I went and I joined IT, I became the trainer just for engineering on software. And then it expanded into data storage, security, configurations, deployments, servers, everything. It really just expanded into every piece of IT. Um, and that is why I went back to school for my degree in technology. So I went and got my bachelor's degree in IT, and a master's degree in my master's degree is actually in uh, information systems. My bachelor's degree is technically in uh, technology and information systems. So it was really a great blend. It really taught me a lot about technology, taught me a lot about what I thought I knew. And I ended up teaching at a college in 2008, started teaching at night. And then I became a professor for a while. I did that for 3 years with Rockford University, became with Rasmussen College, then with Rasmussen University, and then for Rockford College, which became Rockford University, and I became the director of IT there. I was there for several years, and then moved out to Arizona. So that's the long story, shortened as much as I could possibly make it.
No, that's great, and this provides a ton of additional questions for me. We've every time you and I spoke, we've spoke a lot. We really talk tech, we talk crypto, we talk content, we talk Web3, Film 3. We've talked your festival quite a bit. To get this background on you is wonderful and gives a ton of interesting angles that we can talk about here. So, as you're you said 2008, and I'm leading into questions that are, how did you get introduced to crypto, and where was your mind at when you found crypto? Were you already looking at these things since you're coming, you have a master's in information systems? Are you already looking at cryptography? Are you thinking this is the future? Is this even on your radar at the moment?
Great questions. Those are real great questions. I gave what I did there was I also glazed over the three most significant things that happened to me during that time frame was I had the birth of my three children. And that
Amen.
was,
Amen. Amen. Let's go. That's great. That's great.
yeah, I don't want to pass over. I mean, those are all my professional experiences. From a personal experience, though, life really was not. Yeah, it sounds easy in the way that it comes out, and I think it's important. At least when I get a chance to tell a story, I like to be able to tell people that nothing is easy. Nothing is. It all is hard work. I mean, during that time frame, I had three beautiful children. I had my son, and then I lost my job. So when I had lost that job, I was like, I've got a newborn son. What am I going to do? Right? How does this work? What happens? So it's not foreign to me to know those challenges. My daughter was then born. My first daughter was born, um, and it was just we were in a transition period because I didn't know what to do from the situation I had been in with losing my job. I was out of work for it wasn't quick to get the job, so I was out of work for several months, and bills piled up, things got stressful, and I was still behind by the time I got back to work, and the pay wasn't, at that time. But I'm not complaining or illing anybody on the amount of money they make at the age of 18 or 24 coming out of college or high school. I wish everybody could make a ton of money, but at the time, that wasn't a lot of money, and it still isn't a lot of money what I was earning. So that it was a lesson for me in responsibility of ownership of those of assets, right? Of what I have is important to keep and manage it as though it's going to go away tomorrow because it's important to have. And that's not just financial. That's your family. That is,
Your health,
uh,
everything. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
anything.
Yes.
It's not just the tangible things. Exactly. Um, so that was those three things. And then my daughter, and I'll come back to this a little bit later. But my oldest daughter, or my youngest daughter, during that time frame, I was going to school, working on my bachelor's degree, and I dropped out. I dropped out because my youngest daughter had suffered a vaccine reaction at the age of 14 months from a she caused a brain hemorrhage, and the next she spent the next 90 days in intensive care. And then she went from intensive care to therapy, and she spent the better part of a year in a inpatient care hospital where my wife actually lived. So I would drive every day from an area called Rockford down to Chicago, which is about an hour and a half drive. I drove every day. I would drive down to see her, to see my wife and my daughter, and I'd come home from work and have dinner with my two kids. I'd drop them off at my parents' house, and I would drive down to Chicago. I would see them for probably 20 minutes before the visiting hours closed, and I'd turn around and drive back. And I did that every day um, for those 90 days. Now, when she finally did come home, um, it was just a relearning of things of life. And it took me probably about a year or 2 years before I decided I was going back to college because none of that was a priority. It was just work and do what you have to do to keep getting by. And then I went back to school and worked towards my bachelor's degree. And since then, it's been the same amount of work. It's been go to school, go to work, come home. Uh, had second jobs, third jobs. So none of it was easy, but it's all very well worth it.
Family is definitely worth it. And that is uh, pretty tough to hear. How is your daughter now? And how was the recovery process there? Are you guys 100% recovered? How is she?
Oh, well, thanks, Cam. You know what? She's absolutely the light of everything. She is just brilliant. Uh so now she's 21. So just for comparison, she's 21 years old now. Her favorite thing
Awesome.
to do is have a margarita at Disney. She
Let's
loves
go.
having margaritas.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right.
She's
Yes.
she's her condition is she has a condition called dystonia, so she can't stand or speak. But she can stand momentarily, but her balance, because fine motor skills are what were damaged, and that's your ability to speak, your tactile for touching like your fingertips together, the ability to eat, swallow. That's actually fine motor skills. Speaking is fine motor skills. So she has a very limited capacity for any of those things and cannot speak. But super intelligent. Like I mean, brilliant. She's the sharpest one of the bunch. Um, yeah, keeps me on my toes. And then but my other two are great. My son, he joined the Marine Corps. He served overseas in Japan for 4 years. My oldest daughter, she has her degree in deaf studies, um, and is a teacher for troubled youth in Tucson, Arizona. She loves that job. Um, yeah. So the family's doing good. I mean, we are doing very blessed. Everything is good. But that whole thing was just kind of another catalyst, and I'll come back to that. Like I said, I'll tag onto that here in a minute on that because that influenced me with AI Film 3. That provided a big influence.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. And also, I want to say thank you for your service to your family as well, my king. I know you show up in a lot of ways, it seems. And thank you for building a family and making more humans so we all have somebody to make this content for and people to watch it. I can't imagine that. I have a 19-month-old son, and he's my world, and I can't imagine what you and your family were going through. And really remarkable to hear your perseverance, and you have such every time I've talked to you, you've never been negative about anything. You're the most positive person, always optimistic, and I take it, you've seen a lot on your journey and know to just keep on climbing, my king. I love that energy. So, you got, you have 3 children now. What year is it? I know we left off kind of 2008. Where were you when your 3rd child was born?
Yeah. So Bailey was that was right around that was 2003, right?
Okay.
So 2003. So yeah, after that, that was just that was just a lifetime. Yeah, I could get onto a whole other trail of what journey was like, and in long story short, though, is that better part of 7 years. Let me just throw that number out. It was 7 years of a process and a journey before there was a lot more healing. So sometimes we don't see the light. We don't know that it's there. We just have to keep going forward. That's all. So
you just have to know it's there before you can see at the end of the tunnel. You just got to keep faith. It's going to be around this turn ahead. And if it's not the next one, it's going to be the next one. It's going to be the next one. Just keep the faith, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Cam. But I will go back to your other question, though. You would ask me about, where was it when I started doing the 2008 and teaching? And it's funny because when I was teaching people how to use the software that I had actually was training engineers on initially back in
Was that actually CAD? Was that actually the CAD software, or was it something specific?
Yeah, I was actually teaching them how to use SolidWorks.
Okay.
So through that company, I'd gotten certified and a certified SolidWorks professional. So I was doing a lot of 3D and 3D creation, engineering designs, structural analysis. So that was 2008 when I started teaching there, and then in 2010 I got offered to a chance to come teach as a professor full time, and I did that. So the teaching thing in 2008, that was at night. That was on top of my normal job. so I had my normal job, then I go teach classes at night and then go home. But then in 2010, I got a full-time job teaching, and I really loved it. Got a chance to connect with students, and it's amazing because even today, I still have students, believe it or not. Here it is 15 years later that I was teaching in 2010 that I'm still in touch with, that I talk to on LinkedIn. They tell me about what they're working on. And at the time, they may have been 18, and I was only in my 20s. But we're talking to each other like, what are you doing? How is work going? And they tell me how I've been able to see their journey, right? I've been able to be part of that for the last 15 years. It's really wild. And then after teaching, I had a university reach out to me, ask me to teach, but they also wanted me to be the director of IT. So I took my first director position in IT, managed the entire university system, and had a number of reports, great staff. I was teaching at night. And as far as the view of, I always looked technology forward. I always try to do that. And what was it? It had to be 2000. Well, it had to be 2008, 2009. You remember the Google Glass?
Absolutely.
So I actually own. I am one of those glass holes, they call it, right? I have 2 of them. I have the first generation testing piece, and then I had the version 1, the first one they actually released. I was one of their beta testers when that first came out, and so I was always looking at interesting technology, what's happening with it. When it came to crypto, I actually discovered crypto, I would say probably about 2012, and that was through just studying, right? Just trying to learn about what's happening. I did not quite get a chance to wrap my head around it. The college was like, no, we're not going to go into that thing. We don't even know what that is. there was a lot of speculation. So I avoided it. I really didn't get into it. I didn't deep dive. I had too much on my plate already, and now I kick myself in the butt, right? As long as I'm not the guy that made Pizza Day coming, which is coming up,
I
by the
think
way.
we're all so early still. I think people think they're late, but I mean, how long's Bitcoin
Yeah,
existed? Not that long. So let's be serious about what's
yeah.
going on. We're really early.
Well, I really started looking at AI. I would say about so in 20. So I moved out to Arizona in 2015, and I was just tired. I was tired of the snow. I was tired of the cold. I was tired of all the political stuff, the way that was working. So
And you're
you know
leaving
what? I gotta get out of
Chicago, right?
here. Yeah,
Real
yeah.
snow. Hour north of Chicago. You're getting hammered out there with
Yeah,
snow for
well, that's
sure.
the thing. I grew up in New York, so I thought I was used to it, but you're never used to it. No, don't let anybody ever tell you, "Oh, I get used to the snow." That's not true. The minute you get away from the snow and you don't have to have it for a year, you realize I wasn't used to the snow. Oh man. So yeah, it was so after we moved out here in 2015, and I was a vice president and CIO for a college out here, and it was a really very rural area in Navajo County. And Navajo County and Apache County together are larger than the state of West Virginia. We were the only college serving the entire region. So when we start saying that the country is large, our country is the U.S. is huge.
Huge.
Um, yeah, it's much bigger than I realized. When I realized how that I had staff that were in locations, I'm like, well, I wonder if I can go up there and talk to them. Yeah, it was a 4-hour drive. You know, no, I'm not going up there. I would go up there to see them and check in once every month or so, but I would never be. So there was a lot of trust that had to be built. You had to build good teams. You had to build a lot of distance relationships. When really 2015 still wasn't like it is today, right? We don't have a lot of this
No,
distance
yeah,
social
Benny's in here.
engagement.
Shout out Benny J from AIR today. We were just talking about this of people think that, like, oh, YouTube was around 2006. Like YouTube was really just starting to pop off in 2014, 2015. And yeah, I totally agree. Keep going.
Yeah, and I love Benny. Benny, I see you down there too, buddy. Yeah. By the way, everybody in here, I just want to shout out that everybody in here is fantastic. There's a remarkable group of human beings. Um,
We're lucky to be in
so
this
yeah,
space.
we are. I feel lucky to be in this space, and
Amen.
yeah,
Me
there's so
too.
many
Every
good
day.
people here. Um, and on the goodness, I forgot where we were saying some sidetrack with the people. I'm like, talk to these people all day long. Um, where was I?
You
Where
just
was
went.
I?
You went to Arizona. You're head of
Oh,
the IoT. You're working at the
that's what it was. It was
school.
college.
Yep.
Yeah, I was working at Northland Pioneer College was the college, and we served a lot of underserved and non-served communities. And what that means is we were on the Navajo Nation, the Hopi, and the Apache Nation, as well as the communities that surrounded that were not on the nation. And those populations extremely underserved, had a desperate need for more opportunity. And so in 2015, right when I got there, I actually started looking at federal grants and opportunities, and we found a $1.25 million grant that was going to help us build out a unique form of infrastructure to build a distant design to connect people. Well, not like today where there's these BEAD grants, there's all this ARPA funding and ACA funding, and there's money that seems like coming out of our ears sometimes. Um, at that time, a $1.25 million grant, even in 2015, was not insignificant, but it wasn't a lot of money to do a lot with the technology. So I actually partnered with Cisco. I reached out to Cisco companies and talked to some of their people, and they brought me out to California. Got to go to their one of their headquarters and discuss what my ideas were. And they started developing that technology. What I wanted to do is deliver, because there was no connectivity out to those areas, how do we engage a community that is a decreasing population, e- extreme unemployment. Many places don't have running water, and there are people that live with dirt floors. So how do you fix? How do you address it? It's not, and I hate to say fix. It's not broken. It's a culture. Maybe it's but they have to have opportunity. How do we build opportunity for people that want to have choices and engage people where they live? So I had this idea of this interactive design board that could run off from a very low bandwidth, had low latency latency and could perform. And so they already had some technology developed, but in partnership, we talked about other things we could develop. How is it possible? Cisco ended up coming up with some really great solutions. So I'm not a Cisco salesman. I don't deal with Cisco anymore. I don't even work for them, but never have. I'm just saying they did a great job. They had great leadership that was doing the right things for the right communities. But in 5 years or in 4 years, what we did was we ended up developing an infrastructure to engage students where they lived. And I'm going to tell you the story. Why this was important is because when I first started it, I was getting a lot of resistance and I couldn't understand why. So I took the time and I went out and I talked to some of the elders that were actually on the Navajo Nation. And I had a woman that explained to me, an elder, that she said to me that the reason that she wasn't against education, it's just it didn't help her. And I said, and I didn't understand at the time why. So through the conversation, she explained to me that her grandson was extremely smart. He was a very bright young man, and he is going to do wonderful things. Yeah, if education comes along, it's going to the institutions will give them a scholarship to bring them into their culture, into their society, and when her grandson has the choice of graduating with his bachelor's degree or master's degree even, will he come back to the reservation and support his family and the culture, or is he going to stay where he lives, where he's at that time? And it will be where he is, right? It will be at that same San Diego. It'll still be in LA. It'll still be in New York, or wherever he got that scholarship and opportunity at. Now, at no fault to that young man at all, would that happen? At the same time, it makes that culture less rich. It makes that culture less opportunity. They have less leaders internally that they desperately want to keep.
Yeah, this is
So
the
I
whole
took
argument
that.
against like extracting the best people from all over the world is that how do they build up if we're taking the best?
Yeah, and Cam, I had never really thought about it that way until that conversation. Until I had those conversations with the people in the tribes, I didn't really quite understand it until I got their perspective deeper. And so I made that the mission with our team, is that we are doing this so that those students have an opportunity to learn where they live and grow where they're planted. They don't have to leave. That if they choose to, they can, but they certainly aren't being forced to because they didn't have that opportunity
Grow where
previously.
they're planted is such an awesome statement. Keep going. Sorry to interrupt. Keep going.
No, no, yeah. So that was really it. That was the whole premise of it. And what happened was, my team really put. I mean, for 4 years, that the team that I had it wasn't very large, but I'll tell you what, it was one hell of a dedicated group of people. And I still am very proud of all the work they did. So they had in 4 years, we started out with the first deployment we had, our first cohort, we had 10 schools that were offering to participate. Now I could afford getting up to 20, and we were paying for all the technology. We weren't charging them anything because it was all part of the grant. So the courses were even free for the students. In the first cohort, we had 10 schools that said they wanted to participate out of we had 20 available. We had 90 students totally enrolled in that first quarter. After that first quarter, and they saw how it worked, I had the other 10, so I had the full 20, but then I had more that wanted to get on board. And I'm like, I can't, we don't have the money. And it's now I'm kind of, we'll figure that out, right? What does the evolution of this look like? But we ended up in 4 years, we started with 92 students. By the time it was 92, right? Yeah, 92 students. By the time we finished that 4 years later, we had over 1,000 students in the cohorts with a 96% persistence rate. And a persistence rate means that they completed their degree. It means that they completed to the end. With that 96, and the national average is in the 50s. So it was remarkable that you had high school students that were taking college level courses for their junior and senior years and walking out with an associate degree from their high school before they even crossed the stage for their high school diploma. That was when I knew we had a huge success, and that told a different story to everybody in around. So that got attention. Got attention for that project, and it wasn't even. And I don't feel I deserved it because my team is the one that did it, and it was not an individual effort. But we had recognition from companies out of Texas, companies out of California. We were put into national papers when it comes to technology and how the technology was used. So that was before COVID, right? That was before we got to the point where everything suddenly wanted to get remote. We were 4 years ahead of it from the deployment and interaction design. So then I left there, and I ended up getting brought on to Northern Arizona University as a director of IT, where they wanted me to kind of replicate the same thing that we'd just done at this smaller college, um, and approach the tribal nations that are actually served by that university. And from there, I got a chance to work with people like SpaceX to talk about how do we deliver mobile technology. I can talk about it now, but at the time I had an NDA, and we were doing the pilot testing for what SpaceX now offers for your vehicle. So that if you have a motorhome and you wanted to have internet and you wanted to subscribe to SpaceX, you could do that today. We were piloting that on school buses because we had students that were riding 3 hours on a school bus across the nation. We'd take an hour and a half to get to their drop off point to get on a school bus to go into. So they take one school bus and an hour and a half, dropped off, and then another hour into school. So for that 2.5, 3 hours, they had nothing to do on the bus. Well, we thought and when they got home, they absolutely didn't have internet connectivity. So how do we help them do their work when in today's day and age, they're doing work online? So that was our design. And working with SpaceX, they were a great partner, obviously. They went overboard with the technology and providing us the resources we needed. And it was great. It was just a huge win. They developed their technology and I solved the needs. So that's a symbiotic relationship.
What a king. This is incredible. And just seems like you show up in ways I can't even imagine. You're showing up everywhere from, joining the Marines, and now you're showing up for, I guess, people that don't have the opportunities that everyone else does. This is amazing. And that you're showing up everywhere, King. So keep going. What's next from here? You got partnerships with SpaceX. You got all these connections, and you're at basically the forefront of technology now. If you're demoing and beta testing, Starlink is what it was, and they didn't name it that then. I bet you was just under SpaceX contract. Is that what it was?
They didn't have a name at all. They didn't know what to call it.
Amazing.
So none of us did. Well, they probably did, but they didn't tell us the name.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, it was. I tell you what, I've been very blessed and fortunate to see some really cool and interesting things, and participate in ways that I never expected. After that, I actually I left the university and I was asked to come and join a county, to do much of the same thing. And right now, that's my full time job. I actually work full time, doing. I'm building a dark fiber middle mile infrastructure for non-served and underserved communities in the state. I've got about an infrastructure that's designed. It's 140 miles of dark fiber. We're down to the last 8 miles. I'll have that complete here shortly. And then I've got a $6 million, and that was a $40 million project. Then I got a $6 million project where I'm building a connectivity for rural agriculture so that they can use their autonomous tractors, drones, IoT devices, AI devices. And when they're growing crops out in rural areas, it's really hard to have the connectivity. I think everybody in here, my lessons that I've learned through this process, we take the food on our plate for granted, to know what goes into it, to the work that goes behind it. And then when we start talking about the cost of it,
I can't believe food is not way more expensive. Like a $12 burger, I'm like, what? How is it $12 that's an expensive? I'm like, it should be 20. I can't believe it's $12. Unbelievable to me. I agree totally.
Well, I mean, again, I took kind of a lesson from what I was seeing in COVID, right? In COVID, do you remember people panicking over toilet paper?
Yeah. They don't have bidets. You guys, everybody get a bidet. Get out of here. Yes, I remember.
Well, I know it sounds funny, but you know what? What happens if we run out of food?
Yeah.
You know what? You think it's a panic attack over toilet paper? What happens if you don't have?
Well, we're so blessed in the States too. I mean, 90% of the food we make is exported. So like us running out of food is kind of insane. Yeah, the transportation lines could be messed up a little bit, but us running out of food, we're so wealthy here, we can't even imagine. I mean, that's it more than pretty much everybody here, I would assume.
Well, Cam, what's interesting though is that so this is where it all ties in, right? This is how it gets really complex really fast. The water gets deep. So you look at efforts like legislation that want to do water conservation efforts. Okay, well, water conservation doesn't mean you turn off your sprinkler in your yard. It means they cut a percentage of the water across all platforms, including your agricultural leaders.
Yeah.
And right now in Yuma County produces 80% of the leafy greens for the entire country for 7 months of the year. If you cut off 10% of their water supply because you're trying to do water conservation, you're going to reduce the food sources by at least 6 weeks, meaning that we're going to have 6 weeks with no lettuce production, with no leafy green production. That's not insignificant. That is huge. And that's 80% for the US. That doesn't even account for the fact they make things like specific wheat that goes to Italy. They make
Exactly.
specific
Yep.
grains that go to other countries.
Hmm.
So we can't. So for me, doing the technology piece was to make it so that the food is sustainable in a way that even if they reduce the water, the production of the crop is still the same number, because we can actually produce more with the same amount of water if we do it right. So that's why I'm building this infrastructure. So we have food sustainability in the country and really in the world. It's become a model. I mean, I've got the attention right now from the DoD. I've got attention from other countries. I've had visitors from Israel. I've had visitors from Greece. I've had I mean, people come in just to see what we're building and how we're doing it, because we're for it's just it's going to change how we have food. And when I talk about the food production costs, like you were just talking about, Cam, for a farmer to have a tractor run in a field out in the middle of nowhere connected to a satellite, they have to have subscriptions to AT&T, Verizon, to some satellite provider. They probably have 4 different subscriptions, and each of those
Easily.
subscriptions are
Easily. Yeah.
several $100s a day. I mean, because they're looking for dedicated quality of service, priority. They've got everything you can imagine, and just to run the tractor, just to have it on, it's crazy. So and that's why this goal for me is to build this design in a way that they can reduce the number of subscriptions. If they have a primary and maybe a backup, if they choose to have a tertiary, great. But and satellite is a wonderful thing. And I will say that again, all the satellite providers out there, one does shine better than others when it comes to what they're doing with that priority of signal. And for those cases like agriculture, yeah, that's still not sustainable, or it's not reliable, because you could have atmospheric challenges, you could have location challenges. There's so many different variables. I'm trying to provide it so that it's local, it's within their region, and their probability of losing signal is fractions of a percent.
Amazing. Everyone, we are talking with PJ Way of AI Film 3 and Prometheus Productions. He is an AI trailblazer. He has set up the first AI Film 3 and Art Festival in Arizona, and working on many more locations and a lot of different events. For the last 50 minutes, we have heard about his background, his education, his family, his service in the Marines, which took him to, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, King, was, I try to take notes and write all this down, but you said 37 states and 8 countries. Was that correct?
That's right, man.
Amen.
Yeah.
All right. What a journey. So, we're just getting into where it's the last decade or so, and he's talking about right now he's running dark fiber to underserved communities. And right now we're talking about agriculture. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Cameron. I'm head of community at Rad TV. If you have not checked out the posts that we have pinned to the top of this space, please do go check out AIFilm3.com. Go follow Another Variety One, which is PJ's personal account, which he's speaking from here. AI Film 3, which is his festival account. Follow our CEO, Tony, who is up here as a co-host as well. And if you guys have any questions about Rad TV, feel free to send us a DM, free for users and creators to get started and start monetizing today at radtv.com. King PJ, thank you so much again for joining us. I'm looking forward to this next hour. So let's pick up right where we are. You're building this dark fiber network. You're running some monster contracts. Of course, you have attention of DoD. Of course, you're talking about agriculture and dark fiber. You're very quickly going to be talking to the DoD, and especially with your background in education, it seems like no brainer. So where are you right now? And let's dive into. Let's get back to AI Film 3 Festival. I want to ask you a couple specific questions, but I don't want to cut you off and finish your story. So where are you right now with wrapping up those things, those big contracts that you have in your day job?
Thanks. Kelly, I mean, to wrap it up, it's a lot of us are I guess I shared all the details of what I'm currently doing also full time, because everybody here, there's probably most of us in this room, if not all of us, have full time jobs or some other dedicated thing we're doing, and we have competing values and competing interests and things pulling our attention. I the one thing I will say is that I always make time for my family first. That's the first thing. If they, we're doing something, we're doing something. Um, when it comes to the projects that I'm working on, I love it because I do know that it makes a difference, and I think everybody here knows that they make a difference in whatever they're doing. So I appreciate you letting me take the time to share a little bit of the journey, how I got to where I am, what I'm doing today. Um, yeah,
I think it's very
it's a good.
important, and I don't anticipate coming in having all the questions solidified, rock solid. If these are the questions I'm going to ask, I have an idea of where we're headed, but your background kind of alters the path forward and really gives us the groundwork to ask meaningful questions of where you are today. So let's dive in. Like last year's festival, I think you told me you had like 150 plus films, um, several panels, and it was a very successful event. What Tell us about last year's event and what you're looking forward to this year?
Oh, thanks, Tony. Thanks. I saw Tony's name. I'm
No,
like,
I
oh,
know.
hey,
Yeah,
Tony.
I got it. No, I got it.
Thanks, Cam. I appreciate you, buddy. No, yeah. So last year's event was fantastic, and I want to just at least say thank you to a bunch of people real quick in the room here. Justin down there, long shot. He was a huge part of helping me and supportive, helping with the open calls, helping with sort through things. And if people are not familiar with PPN or Justin, I would recommend you get familiar with him. He's an amazing individual and got some great stuff going on. I also want to say thanks to Chris Hackett. Chris Hackett is actually on my advisory board. Chris is an amazing individual, again, super talented. And the more I've been talking to people in the last couple of weeks, I have had people just say, "Hey, do you know Chris Hackett?" I'm like, "Yes," and because it's all positive, it's such good
I
stuff.
think everybody knows Chris in this
And
space. Shout out King Chris. Thanks for being
yeah,
here.
right. Exactly. JBR is one of my favorite human beings on the planet. Honestly, she's just remarkable in her own right and everything she does.
Such amazing
Same with
energy.
Logic.
Hi,
Logic was
JBR.
Yeah. JBR came out. Logic came out. I loved having them with it, and I can't wait to see them again this year. I know they've got to be coming because it was just amazing having them. And then every other person that's in here is just amazing too. Oh no, don't do that, JBR. Don't do that. Oh no, don't tell me. And Dagmar, and I just want to point out that Dagmar, I've got another project which I will bring up also here. But Dagmar is submitted some work for this current project that I'm working on, which takes place tomorrow. It's I'll touch on it real quick. It's a fundraiser. It's a fundraising charity for the Nick Lowry Foundation to end homelessness. And I'm dedicating my time and resources to supporting this cause to generate revenue for that purpose for the charity event. And I reached out on socials here, said, "Hey, anybody doing AI fashion interested? I'd love to have you participate and support." And this is the nonprofit. This is what we're doing. And Dagmar responded and has submitted work, and it's showcased. I've got it already. It's prepped, and it looks amazing. So I'm gonna make sure to take pictures for her and call her out later. But and all the artists that created were just fantastic. And it's blowing away the people because what it is they're doing a runway show, runway fashion show. We music. They have a DJ that's coming in. They've got art exhibits that's going to be up, as well as the AI Film 3 stuff, which is all of our art talking about AI fashion. So I really wanted to demonstrate the capabilities of fashion and AI, and the people that responded have just been fabulous. Um, oh, and they're bringing in people. It's really crazy because every time I turn around, this company keeps bringing in more and more really interesting people. They've got a football player from the Cincinnati Bengals that's coming in. They've got a football player from that won the Super Bowl with the New England Patriots coming in. They've got models coming in. I'm like, this is a much bigger thing than I expected. Sometimes we don't know what we sign up for, I guess.
Got to be
Uh,
careful what we ask for.
exactly. So I just wanted to point to that real quick. And it's called Exhibit 1.0. It's in Phoenix tomorrow. So if anybody's in Phoenix area, it starts tomorrow at 6 p.m. I think their tickets are like $25. So they're not charging a lot, but they're trying to get as many people as they can to come in pass through for the 4-hour event. So it'll be fun. So thanks for letting me share that. I appreciate that, Cam.
No problem. Is there a post? I'm scrolling your X account real quick. Do you have anything where we could pin that to the top? Any information on that?
I probably do here. I'll share
If you
something.
DM it to me, I'll pin it, please.
I
Thank
will
you.
do that. I will do that for sure.
Cool.
Yeah, as far as the festival last year, so as I pointed out, people that came out were just amazing, and it was such a good time. But we had 157 films that were totally shown over 3 days. Um, uh, we had 52 music videos, 150 plus works of art, 18 panels, and 40 speakers, which is crazy, right? Because I was not planning on having that many speakers, but there were people like, "Hey, can I?" I'm like, "Yes, let's get you up here. Let's do it." Right. And having been, I think had the luxury of being Lessons to Learn as the first in the U.S. It was the first film and art festival in the United States, and since then we now have. I think we're on our 5th one coming up. There have been others. There was one out in Austin, one in Georgia. There's one in Seattle. There's going to be another one that's coming up here in Hollywood. I think. Well, maybe it was only the 4th. Yeah, me, and I would be the 5th. So that's it. Those are everything that's happened in the U.S. right now. Oh, I take it back. LMU is the 5th one. Loyola Marymount University. It's the first university to put on an AI film event. I got a chance to go out there and participate and support them, and they were very hospitable to me, and great group of people. So
did you tell them I'm not coming while there's snow? No snow, I can't come.
Well, exactly, right. That's why I was like, "Hey, you guys are out in LA, and this time of year, perfect. I'll be right there."
Oh, Loyola. Oh, okay, that's out there. I was thinking for some reason I thought that was Chicagoland. I thought Loyola was Chicagoland.
Yeah, I know, right? That's when I yeah, right. No, it's Loyola Marymount out of LA, which was really nice, beautiful campus. I tell you what, man, it was unbelievable. Overlooking you could see the ocean from their top. It was crazy.
That's amazing.
Yeah, just beautiful campus. So yeah, it was the first film festival in the U.S. and we had a total between those that came in person and those that we had online that viewed it. We had a total of 415 people participating. So we had a very good number. I'm very, very proud of how that turned out, and most of that was organic. There were a lot of people that were from the space that got a chance to meet each other and hang out. It was wonderful. We had one of our guests. Let me tell you some of the quick highlights. Also, is that we had Samantha Goldberg. Samantha Goldberg does the red carpet for the Oscars, Emmys, and Grammys. She just did Sundance this year, and she came out and was one of the hosts at our red carpet event. At the red carpet event, they brought up 4 different speakers, which was great. One of those happened to be Matthew Earl Jones, who's the brother of the late James Earl Jones, and he happens to be the state director for film and digital media. And we were told he would be there for 10 minutes. And I'm sure JBR or Logic could tell you he stuck around for about 2.5 hours. It was amazing. I've since been very fortunate to have had breakfast with him and dinner and had several conversations along the way. He called me last week just to check in. It's just, I think that where we're at when it comes down to films and AI films, this just is a great representation of what is being viewed from outside our circles, from outside what we're used to talking about, what we're used to seeing. There's now external forces that are watching closely. So, the festival was awesome. We held it in Glendale, Arizona. Weather was perfect. We couldn't ask for better weather, honestly. We had an after party one night at a place called Salt. Everybody seemed to have a really good time. I think some people got home at like 4 or 5 in the morning. I went home earlier than that because I was tired. It was a good time, though.
So what sparked AI Film 3? I know you said that you were talking to people and they were talking, they didn't have the exposure. They weren't getting the viewership that they wanted, or they weren't reaching the audience that they imagined they could reach. And that kind of catapulted you into this vein. But what actually was the moment that you're like, I got to start a brand for this and really start to lay the groundwork for something that becomes the festival? At what point did that idea be like, okay, I know where I'm headed now?
Sure, sure. Real good question. So while topically, like I said, yeah, you're right. I mean, that was kind of like the thing that made me go, oh, it was a motivator, right? It was another thing that was a catalyst that helped me make another decision. Um, because I was inspired to do this. The reason I even took to AI to begin with, right? Because you kind of asked that in the first hour was some of my AI journey and how I got there. And I really didn't get a chance. I didn't cover that, and that's definitely my fault for missing that. But the reason I started it was because my youngest daughter, as I mentioned, she has a disability, and I've been in the technology space forever. And I was looking at AI stuff in about 2017, 2018 when I was looking at it from the university's perspective, then again in 2019, 2020 with the university's perspective again on other topics. But I wasn't looking at generative AI. I was looking at it for different applications for student safety, student all kinds of stuff. So um, when I looked at it for generative, it was something I started just explored like probably everybody here is Google's little first drop or before I knew any of the platforms was testing things out. I was like, oh, this is really kind of neat. This is cool. I like it. Well, I showed my daughter. I decided that because at the age of 18, she aged out of her physical therapy, which is typical, right? At the age of 18, you're no longer eligible for therapy that you may receive because you're an adult. You're no longer eligible for that type of therapy as a child. So I would draw and I would give it to my daughter and she would paint. She would hold a paintbrush or she'd have a marker and she would just draw it. Well, that was me drawing what I thought she would paint as a form of physical therapy for her hands. When I showed her generative AI and I showed her how to do the prompts. Um, she would put into her device the prompts, and what came out were the images that things that I didn't know my daughter thought or felt because I just let her do her own thing. I wasn't standing over her shoulder; she can just do it. And the images that were coming out were things that I didn't know she expressed in a way that I'd never seen before. So I realized at that point that this was a very powerful tool, and I wanted to become a really good advocate for other people. For I'll be honest, I was thinking, there's probably other dads out there that have struggled with how to talk to their children or how to talk to somebody else and that they have need for. This is a great tool. This lowers a barrier. It gives a new form of expression, a new form of communication, and that's why I took it on. So when it came to the film festival, again, I went there to New York City, heard this from everybody, and I was like, and one of the things. It's funny because even not only the distribution or being seen or growing the circles, but there was also the current concern of people were John Q. Public. It's not real art. It's not this. It's not that. It's not this. It's copy. It's this. I look at all those things as noise. Those are just people that don't quite understand that this is a new tool for voices, and we should not stop people from speaking in a new voice with a new tool. So that was kind of marry that with we want to grow our circles. Well, that's kind of how it fit to me. Was the only way we're going to get adoption is if people start seeing it and accepting it for what it is. And the only way to do that is through an experience. They can do it through either reading it, they can do it through hearing somebody else talk about it, or they can experience it for themselves. And if they experience it for themselves, they'll formulate an opinion that matters suddenly. They'll have something to talk about. So that's why when I put all of those ingredients into the recipe, I kind of came up with this idea that that's why I need to create something that's going to be a foundation. And really, it was started as a project, not really as a company. I only started the company as a byproduct because I couldn't get insurance, I couldn't get I couldn't get the facilities, I couldn't without a business name. Nobody's just going to let me rent it or borrow it or so
Right.
that's why that kind of formed. So the business was a byproduct of an intent to get people involved.
Amazing. You kind of answered my next question as well, which was how have you personally seen AI unlock, creative potential for new voices and people? And I think you have a personal experience and a personal story that goes far beyond what I imagined your response would be. It's a great answer, and I think this is why you are showing up so heavy is because at what could be closer to your heart than your child, and that becomes passion very quickly. Of this is unlocking things for her, then imagine what it could do for everybody else, and you saw that spark immediately.
Yeah, I did, and it still does inspire me all the time because I mean, it's maybe from, I don't know why, but my first job ever. Well, it's not really my first job. My first job was delivering papers. My next one was actually working in a movie theater, which maybe that's why that inspired me, right? Because I worked in a movie theater and I loved that job. Um, but my first real job that I thought was a real job was when I was a lifeguard and I taught people how to swim, and and getting to know that what I and Jenny, who was the boss, she always told us, that you're teaching people to survive. You're not just teaching them how to swim for casual recreation. You're teaching them how to live, how to survive an accident if they needed to get out of the water. So I I I don't know if all those little pieces. These conversations go around about people that are good actors, bad actors, being products of their environment, or is it psychological? Is it where did you grow up? I think everything is still a choice, and until we put things in a perspective that matters to ourselves, and we see how it can help other people, you're are you making progress, right? Are you getting towards what you're hoping to achieve? Because the reason I brought up that is because that's how I feel about when I just held my first AI collaborative. We call it the AI Collective. We held a meetup here in Arizona. It's the first meetup, and it went great. What was interesting is the connections that were made were not just passive. They were not just, oh, I'm out here to check it out. They were actually somebody that said, I'm interested in this because, and they gave me great reasons. And it wasn't because it was good for their business. It wasn't good because something they see the future of a new job opportunity. It was really genuinely things that, like, I see an application for this that would be beneficial for X. And it wasn't even themselves. So the people that came out were just, well, at least those that came out and engaged and talked, they were really like, there's a lot of people out there like that. And it made me realize that there indeed are a lot of people probably around just not knowing what to do with it. Where is it? How
Absolutely.
does it live?
Or where
Yeah.
they
And you got
fit
to
in. They
find,
know that they're excited, they're interested, but where do I fit in and how do I even start having these conversations? I think if people knew about the AI art today space or even this space, but the AI art today, especially because it's every day, it's just such a powerful place to show up to get information. And then you get a little bit of confidence and then you start playing with these tools and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can do anything. So, I see the inspiration. I see what you're passing around and very excited for what you're building. What's your what's your vision for the AI Film 3 and Art Festival? Where do you see it going? I know you're doing satellite events, and are you trying to do as many events as possible? Or are you trying to do one per state? What's the ultimate goal for the festival that you're kind of expanding now? And I know it's even taken on different names. So talk about what your vision for the overall goal is.
you're trying to ask me what I want to be when I grow up? Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, yes, yes. We have to decide at some point.
I don't know. I might go kicking and screaming to that with that one, but no, yeah. You know what? My vision is, it's funny because I have so many different pieces. And here's
I
what
know you do.
yeah. And part of that though, Cam, is that I'm trying to always find, for lack of a better term, we call them partners, right? We call them partners or relationships for business. I'm not gonna ever pretend to be just like my career, right? My career building out that infrastructure and getting people connected, it's not because I know exactly what has to be done and exactly how to do it. I just know what questions to ask, where to go look for the resource, who is the best person to go do that, and ask them to participate, right? So I, if I can build anything, what I'm trying to build with this is to find all those best in people, the best knowledge base, the people of character, of the people of the right ethics, the people of the right design that really have this a shared vision, and then pass off ideas to them and say, how do we collaborate? Is there a way to? I had a great conversation with somebody yesterday, had a brilliant idea, and I met this, and the only reason I collaborated with that company yesterday in the call, the only reason that happened was because there was a kid behind a bar, and I said hi, and I started talking to him, just shooting the shit, just trying to be nice to him while everybody else is around, just hurrying him along, trying to get stuff done. By taking 2 seconds and asked him how his day was, are you enjoying what you're doing here today? And are you familiar with this type of a space? Next thing you know, he not only is he familiar with it, he actually has a company that does this, and he's literally just serving drinks because he can't afford to do it any other way. What a great opportunity for discovery that he's passionate about, that he's working serving drinks to keep going with what he's building. That's type of thing I feel that I'm building with this company is to identify those people. With AI Film 3, I want it to become from if I had to throw out what I want, man, I'll tell you what, here it is. Do you ever go to Comic Cons, Cam? Have you ever been to a Comic Con?
Yes, I have.
What do you notice about them?
Um, a lot of us eccentric people.
Yeah, right.
Sure.
But they're there because they're all connected, right?
Yeah,
They
yeah. I
may
mean,
not
yeah,
know
they're
each
all
other.
there focused on one thing, therefore a common energy. And when I lived in LA for a long time, so going to big events like that was totally normal. Even Vegas is only a 3.5 hour drive, three if you go fast enough, and before traffic. Um, but it's very interesting to provide a space where like-minded people can come together, and you just never know what's going to come of it. So I appreciate what you're doing, and
Well,
it's
Jim, the reason I asked that, Jim, is because you just defined what I'm looking to do. That is exactly
yep,
what
yep,
do I want. I want AI Film 3 to be the place that people will come. That I'm going to have a festival event, an annual event once a year. That's the pinnacle. That people are going to come out and do and participate and speak and not meant to be commercialized, but meant to be a celebration of what people are doing. We have opportunities to commercialize this stuff at all kinds of events, and let's do that. We should. But this event, I want this to be the event where people come because they're passionate about what it is, not because it's going to get them. They're not getting what do they get out of it as an experience? They didn't get a product to take home. They might buy some stuff from people, but that's not their intent. Their intent is to have an experience with others like-minded individuals and enjoy it. That's what I want that's what I want the festival to become, is indeed just a festival. I want it to become not a conference where people were, I mean, like, again, I throw it back to the fact of like Comic Cons and those types of conventions. They're tons of fun because I can go and listen to speakers that I would never have a chance to meet otherwise. They give me a chance to connect with people that I may have only ever talked to online. Um,
right, right.
and it's not about the product.
Yeah, and
It's
you have
about
something in common already. We're here. So
correct.
if we all took the time and energy and money to get here, it matters.
Right. And that's where I want AI Film 3 is the festival to be. Now, money is a tool that we all have to have in order to make the next thing work. Otherwise, it doesn't work, right? So there are needs to have product events. I'm going to be speaking at Imagine AI Live. So Imagine AI Live is happening in Las Vegas on the 28th through the 30th. It's a 3-day event. I'm going to be presenting AI films. I'm going to showcase different art. I'm going to have display panels. I have a booth. I'm looking for sponsors because that's going to help me do the next thing. At the same time, I'm giving people that have no idea that we exist an opportunity to have an experience in some form of engagement with either the tools, the visuals, because the crowd that's there is typically not focused. I am the only one that's doing AI in film at that entire event. So I think it'll be interesting to see what comes of it. I don't know what kind of contacts we made, but at the same time, it's about the experience for those other individuals. And Justin's actually volunteered to take his time out of his schedule. He's flying out to help me with it. So he's gonna be
Very
out there
cool.
for a day, and I appreciate that.
I think you are doing a wonderful job of bringing together like-minded people. You're bridging gaps for creators. If anybody's not familiar what the AI Film 3 channel is on Rad TV, it's pinned at the top of this space. You can go to check it out. He's got 28 videos, I think. Let me make sure that's right. I think that was the right number. Yeah, 28 videos on Rad TV, all from tons of different artists. And PJ is basically taking care of a business side or the work side of creativity for several creators. Can you tell us more about that, King PJ?
Yeah. The first of all, I want to tell you and Tony both thank you for that opportunity to be able to get a channel on there and start presenting that way.
We're lucky to
Um,
have you.
well, no, I really appreciate it because there are things that I believe that for example, out of the 157 films that were showcased, I know we have people like Terry down there. Hi, Terry. Love you. You're awesome. She did an amazing job with everything at the festival, from all of the work that she had, the work that she presented, the fact that she spoke. She has a great channel on Rad TV. There are a lot of people that are still not finding their voice as strongly, right? And Terry's a great example of what can be achieved for people in so many ways, because she's remarkable. There are artists that out of those 157, they maybe only have ever produced one or two things that they've actually published. They may have a whole catalog somewhere, but they don't know what to do with it. And so all I'm trying to do with the channel is have a platform for somebody to have a new voice without having to have a large channel and feel it's been abandoned and feel that they're not able to maintain it. They're not able to support it. There's still other ways for them to do that. And I want to, it kind of like the HBOs or Showtimes that we all might be familiar with, where you have multiple types of films, multiple types of directors, and people can go in there and see all kinds of stuff and get a different experience. But it also helps those that are not capable of getting a channel because they really only have one or two things, and their content is great. It just wants to be seen. That's all it is. Because I know that's kind of as somebody that's tried to go through YouTube, that's tried to go through other channels, the one thing I always struggled with was I would start it, I would get it going, and I'd be all gung ho for like the first week or two, and then I would run out of content or material, or I wanted to focus on the content creation more than actually supporting that thing, right? This what I'm trying to do is I want to make sure I just have a facility and a platform like you provided that gives one or two people that have or the people that have one or two pieces of content and they're afraid to come forward with, hey, I want to have a channel for my couple pieces. I hope that makes sense.
Oh, it absolutely makes sense. And, there's a lot of multi channel networks, is the traditional term or the industry term for it.
Yeah.
And we think that this is a great way for a community to come together and kind of form collectives on Rad TV. And we make that possible because we have wallet splits. So anybody can come in, pay their entire team at the time of sale. And we love the idea, and you have too, is because, hey, if you don't want to go out and market your work, why not tell an influencer or somebody you're friends with that does have a little bit louder voice online? Why don't you sell my work? I'll build you into the contract. I don't care if you take 25%. 75% of nothing is nothing. So if I can get 75% of whatever you're generating, then sounds good to me. And now you're instantly incentivized. So, we've built these tools for creatives to continue to be creative and to be creative even with their monetization and distribution. And the creativity doesn't stop at the production process. Creativity goes into marketing. Creativity goes into your visibility. Creativity goes into the way Benny uses social media, and he makes sure that he's showing up everywhere on every platform to make sure I'm going to post every day, just because the day that place pops, I'm already in the algo. I've already been there. I'm not looked at as a bot. And that's a creative way to think about the way you are engaging with these systems that are doing their best to extract from you, to turn your table creatively and extract the most you can from these platforms, including us. Our goal is to make you all as successful as possible and remove friction for monetization. We're seeing people even getting I won't mention names, but people are having their AI content taken down. They're having things they're putting up taken down for copyrights, whether it be on YouTube or X. People are being demonetized on X that are making AI content. And it's a tough game to play. If you're out here and you get demonetized somewhere where you've spent all your time, Benny and I had a great conversation about that 2 weeks ago. You spend all your time in what tool or in what social network, and then all of a sudden that thing is gone or that tool goes away and you spend all your time there. Now, you're kind of abandoned. So we love your idea of you're bringing people together, like-minded people that share goals, and it really looks like you are spreading the knowledge, spreading the energy, and you're doing a fantastic job of bringing people together and connecting people within our community. And it's great. We appreciate it, and we see the work you're doing, King PJ.
I appreciate that. It's really kind of you to say, Cam. And it's I do have probably something else. That call I had yesterday. Again, interesting how people, and I see synergies, and there's a lot of stuff great happening. I just want to give one quick shout out here. I noticed somebody that's
It's your space, my king. That's why you're
um,
here.
well, I see Simone. Simone is in the group here. Simone actually submitted some work to the event, and I'm actually to the fashion event. But I'm going to ask her. I've already asked her, and she was great with it. It sounded like that the piece that she submitted, I'm going to be bringing to the Las Vegas showcase to be able to showcase people that type of material. It's fantastic. So I just wanted to shout out to her. I didn't want to overlook her either. So
No,
no,
absolutely.
it's good stuff though, Cam. I think the opportunities in the future of where we're heading is just it's still so early. You said it.
Yeah,
You said it
yeah.
before. It's just still so early.
Yeah, it feels like I think we're on a pretty high up on the trajectory of the hockey stick exponentiality of advancements, and it feels insane every day. Tons of new tools are dropping. It's really hard to gauge where anybody is or any company is or what the future looks like. And I was pretty confident 2015, 2016, 2017. I knew what the next 10 years look like. And I still think I know what this year kind of looks like and maybe 2026, but I tell everybody I just do not have a vision of what like 2027 looks like or 2028, and 2030 just seems insane. And anybody who thinks they have a 5 year plan, if I'm talking to a friend and they're like, I'm thinking, in the next 5 years, I'm going to do this. I'm like, man, 5 months from now looks insane. And like 5 years, we're talking another election. Man, you trying to make decisions for post next election? This election was nuts. Last election was nuts. 2020 was crazy. 2024 was insane. And it feels like 2028 is going to be something that none of us have ever witnessed. And it's going to be the craziest social media time of ever. It's going to be deep fakes everywhere. It's going to be the craziest memes, the dirtiest memes. Like you're already seeing it. The Door Brothers are doing it. There's all these people are doing. They're having fun with these things, and it's just going to keep. Tony says every day, this is as bad as it's ever going to be, and we just finished our year in review video, and I have Tony in a box. We're gonna release it today. But with just a picture of Tony and the voice recordings that we have from here at Rad TV, I can make Tony say and do anything I want. He doesn't have to show up anymore. So like, hey Cam, I want to have a video that's me talking about this. I can literally just make that in like 5 minutes, and it is insane that he doesn't have to show up. And I want to ask you, PJ, where are you seeing this tech go? You're having conversations with people in education. You're now having conversations at DoD. You're talking dark fiber, which is, I think, tied into what these networks are going to have to do to protect themselves and others from accessing these tools. Where do you see AI headed? Are we headed to? Are you excited, or are you Skynet fear? Is it utopia, or is it it could be bad?
Oh, it's great. What I love about that is I would say we're in 2025, so I would say 2, maybe 3 years ago at most, people were telling me that this is just Beanie Babies, and now they're worried
Yeah,
about the end of the world.
yeah, yeah.
Right? How did we escalate that? That escalated quickly, right? We went
Yeah,
from
it
60
sure
years
did.
ago.
Absolutely. That's funny.
Yeah. So I honestly I don't think there's I'm always I don't know, maybe it's just my perception is that we're in a good space. I think everything is when we start worrying about the negative impacts, we have to be mindful. We certainly have to be mindful. We also should be, but I think when people are not mindful of when they're overly concerned and not mindful of the negative, that means that they're probably not paying attention at all and not even marginally concerned about the positives. So they've really got to, there's a balance about recognizing the positives and the negatives. I mean, I think it's going to come down to our advocacy through experience, because my conversation with legislators right now is they do not know what this means. They still are on the fence about should they put policy in place. At the counties, I know counties here in Arizona are trying to address, do we want to have policies around the use of AI? Well, For my county, I've given the advice that we do not put policy around it. We want to make sure that it's the best thing you can do to address any concern about behavior or use is to train people, grow
Yeah,
an
sure.
adoption, build a model, help train them. They will follow the process that you taught them, because if they don't know, they're going to discover, and it may not be the way you want them to learn. So let's build the model, figure it out, and then build an adoption. I mean, the concern over the negative actor, the bad actors, et cetera. Look, I still get emails. Emails haven't been banned, but I still get emails that tell me to click here. I still get
Benny was
emails trying
yelling,
to
"We had
talk to me.
Nigerian prince for 25 years. No, nobody
Right.
cares."
Yeah, nobody seems to care. Why aren't we banning emails? Oh my God, let's protect ourselves, right? It's just a new thing to go on about. And you look at 1983. Um, you had the CEO president of Walt Disney step down because he recommended they start using computers in animation,
Right,
and they
right.
wanted to put them on a rail, right? So how do you the same with this is that the technology isn't something to be fearful of. It's just a matter of the adoption rate is going to be slower if people don't get more experience on it. They don't get some exposure to it. That's just my thought on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we're in a good space. I don't see it being bad. I
I
see too many great use cases, honestly.
I love that energy, and I will ask. I'm going to ask you. We got 30 minutes left. I'll give a little intro to anybody who's new here. We are talking with PJ Way, who is the founder and an AI pioneer, leading all AI, everything in the state of Arizona. AI Film and Art Festival. He founded that along. He had Longshot, who's up in the space as well, helped him out with that. Talked to them a lot as they were getting that festival ready to go. They're currently getting ready for 2025's festival, which will be the second edition, and we are learning all about King PJ's journey into the space and everything he has planned. So, King, I would love to ask you, what tools are you using right now in AI, and what are you blown away by tool wise?
Oh man, that's such a loaded question. I gotta look at I guess who's in here, so I'm not offending anybody. Don't no. Yeah, I mean, right now, I am leaning pretty heavily on. I've been testing Halo quite a bit. Some really interesting tools and growth there, and that was honestly because of the communications we have with people. If we talk to different people, we start learning about what they're using, how they're using it. Um, I still use Kriya. I use Pika, Runway. I use a little bit of everything. I'm not really heavily dependent upon one over the other. I really just try to figure out what I've discovered is, and I think we all know this, that depending on what you're trying to accomplish, there is a different tool that might do it better for that specific effort. So I'm not married to any one thing. I love Higgsfield. I think that's pretty amazing too. Just blown away by how that works, and interested to see how that evolves too. That's kind of the tool set. I mean, it's pretty wide for me, but
Absolutely. Yeah. I think for
yeah,
everybody right now, no, I don't think anybody's totally dialed in. So glad to hear you're experimenting like everybody else and haven't picked a clear winner. I agree. Kriya introducing or integrating the newest and coolest things is probably that seems to be the best foundation right now, is to provide buckets and keep those buckets updated with the best new tools. And otherwise, you've got to be delivering the top of the line
yeah,
thing that everybody's talking about that day. So,
yeah.
how are you feeling about the current state of cinema and Hollywood and the industry? And I ask that because you're approaching it from things need to change. This isn't working. These creators have stories that need to be told, and more voices need to be heard. What are you seeing in the traditional legacy Hollywood space that you think is causing problems, and why is this new path the way forward?
Oh wow, that's a deep and wide conversation. Yeah. The so I'm lucky. It's funny because while I'm in Arizona, I'm in a close enough proximity that I get a chance to get out to the LA area, and I get a chance to have some of those connections. I mean, I just flew out to San Francisco to go to the Project Odyssey event. I was invited out for that, and it was a really cool event, and it was interesting to see and have some of those conversations about what are people experiencing or what are they feeling. It seems to me that adoption is coming. I don't think that there's actually a resistance. I think it's more about a political thing for the established institutions on how they navigate that with their
Absolutely.
employees. How do they navigate that? Yeah, it's and again, there's almost like a it's almost like you talking poorly about um, talking poorly about a piece of technology because you're more
It's like
fearful
saying the
of the
new
new
camera
twist.
sucks because it's too good.
Right,
Yeah, yeah,
right.
exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
how can I can't use that. Nobody can use that. And then on top of it, you start building this mentality though amongst your followers and the believers in what you produce that you're right. That is bad. We should not like that. And then
Right.
suddenly when they decide to change course and say we're going to start adopting it, how are they now going to convince the masses that they've already convinced in one direction that it's bad? How do they come back to that? That's a more of a political navigation thing that I think they're finding themselves put themselves in, right? They're finding themselves in a place they painted the corner to.
Yeah, for
So
sure. They tried to play, but
yeah,
they tried to talk out of both sides of their mouths to who it benefited at the moment, and it's like we're beyond that. Where news travels too fast now, everybody's going to hear what you say. So now you just are backtracking instead of talking in silos.
or sometimes silence can't be misquoted. Just don't
Yeah,
give an opinion on
sure. That's great, PJ.
it. I mean, if they just if they just kind of sat on the sidelines and watched the others chime in and see what happens, sometimes that wait and see is maybe a better approach for some of them. I think I do think it's creating an impact. I think that there's recognition in those industries. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I could tell you what I've heard, but again that's still hearsay until you actually see it. I don't know. I mean, there are studios that are interested. I actually see studios now coming out to some of these events that are happening around the world. When you look at the names, you know that person's associated to X studio. You're like, oh well, interesting. Why would they be there?
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, we're still
There's a
under
reason that
NDAs. We can't talk about knowing that some studios are involved in things that nobody
exactly
knows,
right.
and
So
that's, I mean, they're as deep in it as anybody. They have to be.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's the hard part. Um, So it's hard for us to even have that open discussion sometimes, and that's what I think is unfortunate because we're trying to figure out how do you evolve this with lack of disclosure on certain things.
Great point. So, right now, Hollywood is in disarray between, let's say, Superman coming out and Warner Brothers could go under, Snow White flopping the way it has, all these different friction points in the traditional industry. Do you feel that distribution via Web3 and Film 3 is going to be the answer moving forward, and traditional distribution methods will either fall by the wayside or start to open up to more voices and more storytellers?
Oh man, I think again this is just my casual observation. I'm not basing this on anything that I have. But
Well,
I get
you're the
what
leader,
people are
King.
talking
So
about.
don't think that we're looking at anybody else. You're the trailblazer here, and you're the one that founded the AI Film 3
Well, it's also, I
Festival,
mean,
and
look,
I think everybody in here is the leader. So I don't think anybody's saying that you have the answer. We just value your
well,
opinion.
Well, I mean, look, I've read the Fabric report. Fabric report was really interesting. The newest Project Odyssey report of what they did with their project is pretty interesting. If you look at those things and you were to try and look at them for a form of trends, um, they're talking to tools. They're talking about the technology. They're talking about what subjects, but they're not. Nobody's talking about the distribution model. None of those things are pointing to here's where these assets are lying, right? You can find opinions that people are like, oh, we self distribution is the way. Look, I think in the end, yeah, ultimately self distribution is going to be the most powerful thing we could do for individuals. Couple challenges that are impacting that, however, one is knowledge and skill. Two is access to the tools to be able to do that type of a distribution. And then you have adoption problems. because John Q. Public doesn't know what a wallet is. John Q. Public doesn't know what our environment looks like a lot of times. So if we're looking at self-distribution, we have to find ways to do a self-distribution model that would be non-foreign to the traditional Web 2 environment. You have to find a way to build that migration from what people know and how to do into a learning phase of adoption to get to where we can build this in a way that's the distribution model is easier for everybody. I think that's where, when you look at movie theaters sinking, when we talk about traditional movie theaters that are going out of business, what was it, 1,000 of them or 1,100 of them went out in the last several years? Those when those are closing, why? Is that because people aren't interested in movies anymore, or is it because the distribution models are holding on to the same archaic models that they've always held on to, using the same tired storylines that keep repeating with part 2, part 4, part 12? Or are they just not listening to new voices, or is it a combination of all of them? I think it's all of them. I think that they don't listen to new voices. They're not interested in still, even if your biggest and best production studios today adopted AI tomorrow and came out with an AI film, they're still going to have the political resistance that they've created. They're still going to have traditional people inside of their institutions that choose to tell another Marvel movie with AI, rather than listening to new stories that are out there by everybody else. So I do think longevity, yeah, we have to come up. There is no good, I don't see a good solid way to get adoption yet from the masses. While we develop better tools is the key. I think Rad TV is a great example of building better tools, and you're bridging that gap into people's homes, because you're by getting on the televisions, by getting in platforms like the PlayStation, getting onto their devices, that helps, because then they can start seeing that type of content and building a familiarity with it.
Amen.
So I don't know if that answered the question, but that's a couple of thoughts I got.
Yeah, no, it definitely is at least attempted answering the question. And I'll tell anybody, search for Rad TV on your device, download Rad TV everywhere, and start checking out the creators that are on Rad TV. There's tons of free content. Sorry. So I got is this a problem of the studios not wanting to take the risk? And like we had a couple interesting discussions over the past couple weeks, especially Blacklight 2 weeks ago. And we get to this place where we're talking about what studios are doing and what consumers are doing. And people will say that Hollywood is ignoring, though it's kind of like everybody thinks it's both ways. Hollywood is ignoring what people want, but on the other hand, Hollywood is in, Avengers 47, or I don't know, I'm just making up. I literally have no clue what's going on in the Avengers Marvel universe, but they're on, whatever storyline, eighth chapter of it or whatever it is. And they are giving people what they want because the metrics are telling them what they want. But then those same studios are failing, they're canceling projects. So like, is the data wrong? And I'll attribute it to I think of this often. When I go to order food, and me and my wife, when we go to order food out, and we're going to order something, we're going to spend $50 or $75 ordering in for the night. That's not a small spend in our lives. That's $100 is several meals if we're cooking, and we do every day. So we don't like to take risks on new restaurants, because if it doesn't hit, then we just spent, $100 on a restaurant that was new, and we don't like the food. We still have to make something else. We threw away money. So we just, we stick with our things, and we try things more slowly than others, I think. But it does come down to us not wanting to take a risk because the risk is too expensive. And I look at kind of content creation in the same vein from these studios of, why would they want to take a risk when they know that they're going to eat well over here, and they're going to eat something they really like, and they're going to be satisfied? And in the same vein, how could they ever satisfy all of these veins and make everybody happy? It just seems like a lose, 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 and nobody's winning in the content world. I don't hear any I rarely talk to anyone, and everyone we talk in these spaces, it seems like no one is satisfied with the current state of content. How can that be real? Is it consumers' fault? Is it studios' fault? Where are you placing some blame right now, PJ?
Oh man, that's a great question. You had so many great points in that statement and everything you said. Great points, right? Because um, one, I constantly am saying Hollywood's out of ideas. Well, they're out of ideas because they're constantly playing the same thing. But when you break it down, like you just said, right? If you think about it, those are all those are all justifiable conditions that would cause them to make the same decisions. It's easier to repeat what you think is a good recipe as long as people are consuming it. People, I do believe people are a creature of habit, whether that's a good habit or a bad habit. If you're a hard worker and that's a habit, habits are habits. But we go to the same places, we go drink from the same wells. We like comfort and familiarity. Um, I I'll give you an example. We're like on TV, right? We've got 1,000 channels to choose from. I've got everything at my fingertips with every possible internet connection, visual that
Right.
are that
Literally
work.
anything that's ever been invented, just a few clicks.
Right? It's all right there. Yet I managed to watch the same 6 or 7 movies
Yeah.
on my
Yeah.
Amazon Prime that I purchased out of the 50 or 60 that are on there that I purchased. I watched the same 5 or 6 over and over again.
Sure.
Why? I don't because the others are just not that interesting. Or I've seen it and I'm like, okay, I get it. That's the first one was awesome, right? The first time you had seen what is it with M Night Shyamalan? Help me out here. M Night Shyamalan, the kid sees dead people.
Sixth Sense.
Sixth Sense, right? The first time you saw it, you were blown away.
Yep.
The second time you watch, you're like, okay, look at, oh, I just caught that. Oh my God, look at that. Wow, okay. Third time you watch it, it's a little less interesting. Fourth time, you're
Sure.
like, yeah, it's on TV. It's a good movie. I'll just let it play. Right? Not that you turn it off, but you just like, I'm comfortable with it. I'm used to it. Whatever. But therein lies the problem with new content that's coming out is that most of the content that I feel comes out is, yeah, I've been there. Okay, show me something new. Show me something different. And if the storyline is a continuation of a previous storyline, and there's no logical reason for it to follow that continuation, I don't even know why I'm watching it, and I won't. I go to the movies, and just for frame of reference, I go to the movies every week. Every week we go to the movies for the
Wow. I was
last
just that's my next question is what was the last movie you saw? Every week is crazy. That's amazing.
every week we go every week for the last 5 years. We haven't missed a single. Every Tuesday we go to the movies. You pay $40 at the beginning of the year. We get like this. You get like 40 popcorns at the beginning of the year for $40 prepay, and then you buy your cups for like $20, and you pay $2 to have it refilled. So we show up, we buy it, we get our popcorn and our soda for $4 for two sodas, right?
I need
That's
to
why we
take
go
I'm taking
because it's
notes.
super cheap. Yeah, it's just super cheap that way. Um, and everybody there knows us now. Now it's become our creature of habit is to go to the movies. But it's funny because sometimes we'll go see a movie and we're like, oh man, that's gonna be a hit. There's nobody in it. Nobody. We'll go there and think this movie is not. We're not expecting much, and the place is packed and it's sold out. And it's like, what is going on? Well, that's because the differences in the storylines. It's maybe something, and I don't know. It's just interesting. I love it. I get a good experience every time we go. We just went to see. What did we go see? God, we go so often. I forget what we just did. What the most recent one we had seen
Yeah, if you're
was.
going every week, of course you wouldn't remember. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Well,
All
I
right.
mean, and that's where I think Chris Hackey had a space once, and we were talking about the length of time frame between each of those generative shots, right? That when you do a generative piece for motion, it's like 4 to 6 seconds, maybe 7 if you're lucky, right? You might get it in that time frame. I sat there and I literally watched the movie, and I sat there like keeping track of how long each shot probably took, and it's like 1, 2, 3, 5, right? And it was when I got to 5, it would the scene would shift. I'm like, is that by coincidence that these generative things are coming out at 5 or 6 seconds? Yet every scene that I watch, unless somebody's on like a monologue, somebody's doing like
Yeah.
this giant speech.
5 seconds
The
almost too
shots
long.
are only
Yeah.
6
Yeah.
seconds. I'm like, this fits with what we do. So not
Absolutely.
bad.
Yeah. Even with I think some of the new like Game of Thrones pieces that people are putting out and stuff, when Game of Thrones official was dropping the first hints of dragons in the shows, you had to pause. I was pausing HBO to look at the dragons because it was a flash, or the fire was a flash. It was like they burned up 100 soldiers or whatever it was in a flash, but it was only on TV for I a second might be too long. I don't want to, don't hold me to it, but like
Right.
it was a flash. It was like, there's a dragon, no more dragon. It's like, that's all we need to sell the story. And these establishing shots, these effects things, they do so much to tell the story that we are in the era of incredibly powerful bring your dreams to life tools. So, that being said, I want to get into some more questions. We've got about 10 minutes left, and I want to respect your time and give and make sure we're ending right at 2 o'clock. So I want to ask you, shout out AI Art Today 420 crew. We are big fans of them. They have a space that they host every morning, every weekday. You guys got to go check them out. If you don't already, follow Benny and Terry here in this space. They promote them a lot and are part of those spaces regularly. Do you treat your AI right? This is a question they ask regularly, and they say, treat your AI right. Bijou says it. How do you treat your AI? Or do you treat it like a loved one or like a vacuum?
That's, that's so funny. That's so funny. I I think I think I treat it well. I will. I will say that there are times when if you put in like a please at the end of something, it might give you a better response, and I'm not sure why. I'm like, what is going on?
All right,
And like,
we're gonna do some rapid fire. Just
sounds good.
answer as it comes. No long delays. We don't want you thinking too much. Favorite band or artist of all time? Musician.
Uh, cons-
Favorite artist of all time? Artist of fine art.
oh, Rembrandt.
Favorite movie ever?
Oh, Princess Bride.
Wow. Favorite TV show?
Ghosts.
Where is the best cuisine in the states of the places you have lived, and where is the best cuisine in the 8 countries that you have traveled?
Oh, best cuisine. I would say Italy for overseas. Um, best place in the States. Uh, honestly, there's a barbecue place in North Carolina that I have never had like anywhere else.
Do you remember the name of it by chance?
Uh, I probably do if I thought long enough. They use a vinegar-based barbecue sauce.
I
It's
love
so
that. I
good.
love that you remember that. All right,
I
we're gonna
just
keep
taste it right now. You have no idea how
we're
much.
gonna keep rocking. Favorite restaurant where you're from in upstate New York?
Oh, hides.
Favorite AI tool right now, or the one you're using the most right now?
Uh, Hicksfield.
Favorite AI creator right now?
Oh, now that's a tough one. Now that's tough. Man, that's a hard one. Favorite. Okay. How about if I just do like I still have like this sneaky passion for red for who is it? Oh God, dang it. There's two or three. You put this is not a fair rapid fire, just so you know. Okay. I would say red rum has like this. I have this I don't know what it is about his art, the way that he creates it. It's always just fascinating to me. Yeah. Uh, other than that, you know what? There's so many people even in this space. I see Frisky in here now, and I'm like, Frisky's fantastic. JVR is fantastic. I mean, just so many logic. It's just not even funny. June Red Thread. I don't know if you know who June Red Thread is, but I love her work. Just amazing. Um,
Yeah, I feel like
XO is
I'm blown
another one.
away every day. I'm surprised nobody has given me the answer of like, ask me tomorrow, it'll be different because every day I'm
Well,
seeing stuff from people all the time that I'm like, holy cow, like, nonstop.
you, that's part of it. That's part of the problem, right? Is that it's just there's so many great people out there that are creating amazing things. How do you? It's like I love what Louis Pecan creates. I think he's remarkable. hell, even Chris Hackett, they've got a project running right now that's just fantastic. I think it's beautiful. Um, it's so hard to pick one. It is. It's really
I
impossible.
appreciate that, especially in your position. It is a tough question, and I will not apologize for putting you in the tough position to answer the question. Bitcoin price 2040. Last question.
2040.
2040.
Oh, let's put us in the seven figures. I'll just start there.
Okay, yeah, that's a good answer. All right, so we have a couple other questions that aren't rapid fire. I would like to know what's your biggest friction point right now in your creative process, or where you're seeing or hearing from creators that you're working with. What do you feel's the biggest friction for their whole process from creation through distribution? It could be anything.
I'm hearing. It's. I think it's still. I do think that I can tell you a growing friction. What I see as a growing friction is price point. We're starting to see price points creep up on a lot of the tool sets, so it's going to start eliminating a bunch of creators. I think
Absolutely.
you're going to identify how to resolve that, or new tools will come up at a better price, and we'll have to be in this everlasting cycle of migrating to the new tool.
Do you think that's going? So I asked Blacklight this, and I know it's a tough question for people to hear and answer in this space, but it's a real question that I feel is not, we should address it and talk about it because it's going to happen. We're going to witness it together as a group. Is that these communities right now are, I would say, I don't know, want to put a percentage on it, but largely funded by VC funding and free credits because let's be honest, the average income globally is very low. We're talking, and like this is not a. I'm not just pulling this number out of thin air. It's like $2.50 a day globally is the average income for an individual, and we're talking about crypto where Ethereum's fees are more than that for any transaction, and it's supposed to be the future of finance. We're talking about these tools lowering the bar. I mean, it's kind of your whole energy is like these tools are lowering the bar for creatives to be able to tell stories. But that bar is still extremely expensive on the grand scale, unless you're from, one of the countries that dominate the world. And I'm wondering what your opinion is. How is this going to shake out? Is it going to get rough? Are we going to see angry creators, or are these prices going to eventually come down?
Yeah, that's a good question. I wish I had a crystal ball for that one because I do think that I mean, when I start seeing $200 a month for a specific level of service, I'm like, that's out of the question, right? There's no way that I would be able to consciously do that unless I'm a corporation. I have a deep pocket fund to do that. There's no way as a dad that's trying to make something extra cool here that's building on, right? Or I'm trying to even break it down into even the typical home in America. I agree with you. First of all, I want to say that on your global scale and global dollar value, that's probably close. That's probably about right. I mean, it's a challenge. So even as a not being put in that position, it's nearly difficult, if not impossible, to say I can justify spending this much money on this type of service, knowing that it's not my full-time job, knowing that it's not what is going to be paying my bills, but it's something I'm trying to create with or build upon, or hell, even maybe just have as a resource for my kids to learn with.
Right, right. An
Because it's
education
not
tool,
taught.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just might, goodness knows I bought more than my fair share of candy bars when I didn't need to eat the damn candy, right? Just to support my kids. So this is no different. I'd be buying a service just to support my kids, and at some price point it becomes too much. So I don't know what that's going to shake out like. I think that will possibly be also it could lead to a shrinking of competition because if they outprice themselves, and compute power is not cheap. At the same time, it's getting cheaper every day. I mean, we're in this paradigm that's weird, right? That we say that it
Yeah,
costs so
yeah,
much to
yeah.
run these tool sets. Yet I know right now that hardware cost keeps coming down, and it's coming down at a rate of its increasing value. So
We're
I don't know.
making, I am parroting here, so my numbers are probably wrong, but I do have a chart somewhere where I could find it and get this just right or correct myself if necessary. But we are creating as much compute per day right now as we had like in total ever up until like 2010. So like the entire all compute that we had on Earth in 2010 is like being made to literally per day right now is
Sure.
being
Yeah.
printed. And that, like I said, I'm parroting that. I actually may be like exponentially off. It might be like years beyond that we're doing per day now. And we are at an insane place where, we talked the last couple of weeks about OpenAI raised $40 billion in cash,
Right.
not a $40 billion valuation, $40 billion in
Right.
cash. And that's enough to go buy a lot of companies that we all know. And like, what's Disney worth today? I don't, I don't know where. Let me see. I'm pulling it up right now. 167
Well,
billion. So you come with $40 billion cash, you got a pretty good shot. It's not that
you're a
crazy.
quarter of the way there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's an insane number. So we are in a weird time. PJ, I have loved talking to you today. We're right at 2:00. Last question I have for you. What advice do you have for artists today?
Just I would say just keep working, right? Focus on what you really want to achieve, how you want to get there, and keep working because there are two things that are going to cause success. And it really isn't a it's not a complex problem. It's one is you just show up, and two, you do the work. After that, everything else starts taking care of itself. If you can just do that, that's half the battle. So that would be my advice. Show up and do the work.
Amen. Tell the people where they can find you. Plug anything you would like to, my
Yeah,
king, and
I
anything else you
appreciate
want to
it.
say.
I will make it real brief. Yeah, one is AI Film 3, just so everybody knows I've got a bunch of stuff going on. Open call will be starting. Ideally, I'll get that launched today. So we're going to start our open calls for films. Still going to be happening here in Arizona. It's going to happen in Phoenix, October 30th, 31st, and November 1st are the dates. The facility that I have may look to move those dates on me, but right now that is the dates that we've agreed upon verbally until I get the contract. It's going to be very exciting. I've already got a lineup of speakers. I've already got guests coming in from different institutions, some well-established companies. We're expanding not just in AI film and art, but we're expanding to include gaming, and fashion, gaming, and music. Those are also on the block now. We're going to be focusing heavily on that in this next second year event. If you're in Arizona, I have meetups that have started already. We're going to have one every month. We have. I'm going to be in Las Vegas on the May 28th, 29th, and 30th at the Imagine AI live event, and that happens to coincide with the Bitcoin event. So if you're out there for Bitcoin, I will be there for Bitcoin on that day before and at the Imagine AI live event on the following days. I have discount codes if you guys are planning on going out there to Las Vegas. I can help you with that. 20% discount codes. Yeah, that's the sales side of it, Cam. That's the stuff I'm working on. Stay in touch with the AIFilm3.com website. It's going to be updating and changing. I've got a lot of irons in the fire. We've got a collaboration now with a company out of Dubai that I've been working with for several months now. I mentioned that previously, made an announcement last year in December when that started. And now we're going to be at Cannes Film Festival on the 22nd of this month. So anybody wants to have their work potentially part of that awarded effort, they're going to be doing reviewing here shortly. So I have a open call for it.
And that is pinned at the top of this space as well. Anybody interested, check out the pinned tweets on this space. King PJ, you do show up, and I love that advice. That is amazing. Show up, do the work, and keep showing up. It's nobody's going to do it for you. You got to do it. I love that, and you do, my king. I want to tell you, it's been my pleasure getting to know you over the last 2 years. We've probably talked like this 20 times, and every time it is a pleasure. You're very informed, knowledgeable, such a kind and optimistic person. And every time I talk to you, you're talking about how you can help creators, how you can help Rad TV, and what you can do to progress the space and the vision that you have for the future of AI, Film 3, and what creators can bring to the table. And hearing your background story today, knowing now how this space connects to you and your family in a passionate way that it touches my heart, man. I'll tell you that. It's really special to hear. And it's, talking to somebody like Meta Puppet last year was saying that he thinks I think it was his mom that works with people that have disabilities. And he was saying how impactful and special these tools are going to be to people that do have disabilities. And I think that's why you show up so heavily, and we appreciate it, King. King Tony, I know you're here, and I don't know if you're active, but is there anything else you would like to add before we close down the space? Thank you for joining.
Hey, just listening intently and enjoying the story and the background and learning. And we're of course very thankful to have you here. And incredible story. Cam said it all. So just saying cheers and very much appreciate you and the community. Definitely.
Well, thank you both so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to get up here and talk. And I want to say thank you to everybody that came out. I see all the names, and all of you know that I really appreciate everything you guys do.
We appreciate you, King. Let's get something on the books closer. Let's maybe midsummer when it's time to start promoting heavily for ticket sales and things for the conference. And we'll help you in every way we can, and look forward to connecting with you more and getting the AI Film 3 channel in front of as many people as possible. Thank you for your time on this beautiful Friday. I hope you and your family are well and have a great weekend, and enjoy whatever movie you go to see this week. Thank you for your time here. Everybody go check out PJ and his AI Film 3 channel at Rad TV. It's the top post on our X profile right now. And if you are a creator or an audience member, it is free to get started at Rad TV. You can start monetizing today, distribute to every device. There are no artificial barriers. We don't put any tags on your AI content. We expect AI content. We love AI content, and we believe that all content in a very short time is going to be assisted or produced with AI. And there's no reason to be tagging it or making content that utilizes these tools less than today. So we're very excited to have all you creators. My name is Cameron. I'm head of community at Rad TV. My DMs are open everywhere. Discord, X, Instagram. We're active on TikTok. If you have a question, don't hesitate to reach out, Cameron@radtv.com. Thank you all for listening. Have a lovely weekend. King PJ, thank you for your time, and thank you for showing up. We'll see y'all next time. This space will be live sometime in the next couple days, and we'll be getting Mad Butter Space up live this afternoon. Be on the lookout for our year in review video that's dropping today. And like I said, have a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in. See y'all next time.
Stream and dream for living large. Get your stream pass NFT, take charge.